Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about the states that I believe are shifting Republican and how that will impact future elections. So let's get started. The first state I believe is shifting Republican is Florida, with 29 electoral votes, meaning it carries a lot of weight in the Electoral College. So Obama won Florida in both 2008 and 2012. So it's very much a swing state, but Trump has in 2016 and 2020 solidified it as a Republican state. You can see that from 2016 to 2020, the Republican percent of the vote actually increased, and this is because of the Cuban population in Miami, which is now voting Republican and used to be very solidly Democrat. Okay, so let's go to Indiana now, which is also shifting Republican, and they have 11 electoral votes, making it one of the more impactful states on the Electoral College. So Indiana is generally a conservative state, and in 2008, Obama was able to win Indiana by small margins, but since then, the Republicans have been winning by large margins and have been widening their wins with each election. In 2020, the Democrats were able to increase their voter turnout in Indiana, which did help them to get more votes than they did in 2016, but it's still a 16% difference between the Republican and Democrats in Indiana. So this state has shifted since 2008 when Obama won it. It shifted very solidly Republican. The next state I want to talk about is Iowa. Iowa has 6 electoral votes and is very much a divided state politically. If you look at their House districts right now, I believe there's 3 represented by Republicans and 1 by a Democrat, but the Republican in one of their districts won by, I believe it was 12 votes this year. Okay, so in 2008 and 2012, Obama was able to carry Iowa, and this happened with Al Gore in 2000 as well. So Iowa, it is a swing state, or has been historically. But in 2016, Trump was able to pull off a win with a 10% margin. And in 2020, the Democrats did come back a little bit, but it was still a significant margin for the Republicans with 8% difference. So this state, since 2000, has shifted very much more to the right, and I'm not really sure what the cause is for this. We're seeing a lot of Midwest states shifting to the right, and a lot of them will be on this list today. But this could be because of the economic decline in the Midwest, with the Rust Belt sort of coming, losing population in their big cities. Okay, so next is Michigan with 16 electoral votes. Now, Biden won Michigan in 2020, and Michigan has been supporting Democrats in presidential elections for a long time. In 2016, Trump was able to pull off a victory there with 0.2% more of the vote than Hillary. And this is very significant because it means that Michigan is really a swing state. Now, we saw Biden win Michigan by almost 3% in the 2020 election, which shows that Michigan voters are not yet to the point where this state is going to become solidly Republican, but it certainly is shifting more to the right. In 2012, Obama was able to win with 10% margins, and in 2008, he was able to win with 16% margins. But in 2016, Trump was able to win the state which is really interesting. The next state I want to talk about is Minnesota. So Minnesota has 10 electoral votes and has voted Democrat in every election in recent history. In the 1984 election, they were actually the only state to not vote for Ronald Reagan. The District of Columbia did not as well, but they're not a state. So Minnesota, it's a Democratic stronghold. But as you can see, in 2016, Trump lost by 1.5% there, making it almost a Republican win. In 2020, Biden was able to win there by 7%, which was surprising. It shifted more to the left. I believe this is just because Minnesota, it really didn't respond well to Trump's messaging, especially in the St. Paul area where many of their people are. That's a significant portion of their population in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area. Okay, so the next state I want to talk about is Nevada with 6 electoral votes. And Nevada was a very Republican state until just recently. In fact, in 2004, Bush was able to win there by 2%. But in 2008, Obama was able to win by 13%, completely throwing off the past historical elections. And Trump came close in 2016 to winning it. And in 2020, he came close as well, getting at about 2% or 2% away from winning it in both elections. I believe Nevada, it really depends on the candidate for how they'll vote. They responded well to Obama, and they responded well to the Republicans in 2016 and 2020, but just not enough to have a Trump win. Okay, so the next state I want to talk about is Ohio, and they have 18 electoral votes, making it very significant when it comes to the Electoral College. So Ohio has voted Republican in many of the last elections, but Obama was able to pull off a win there in both of his elections in 2008 and 2012. So it is a swing state. You saw Obama win by 3% there in 2012, but Trump was able to win by about 8% in 2016, and he was able to expand his win in 2020. Ohio is one of those Rust Belt states that's been shifting more to the right, and so this is sort of expected of a state like Ohio. So that I'll go on to the next state now, which is West Virginia with 5 electoral votes. Now, West Virginia was solidly Democrat for many years until about 2000 when Bush won by 6% there. And the election previous to that in 1996, the Democrat won by 15%. But West Virginia, as you can see, has just been shifting more and more to the right ever since. And at this point, it's hard to find a precinct in West Virginia that's not Republican. The next state I want to talk about is Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes. Now, Wisconsin is a Democratic state. It's conservative, but has voted for Democrats historically. So Bush came very close to winning it in both 2000 and in 2004, and Obama won it by huge margins in 2008 and 2012. But Trump was able to pull off a win there in 2016 with 0.7% more of the vote than Hillary, and he lost by a very small portion of the vote in 2020 to Joe Biden. Now, Wisconsin, as you can see down here, their presidential election voting history, they haven't elected a Republican, not including Trump, since 1984 with Ronald Reagan. And Wisconsin, I see with these trends, I can see it voting for a Republican in the future if the Republicans have a good candidate. Now, these next two states I want to show you are not shifting to the right, but are significant, and I want to talk about them a little bit. So the first is Pennsylvania with 20 electoral votes. So it has huge weight in the Electoral College. Now, Pennsylvania, it's really not been shifting to the right or to the left. It's been pretty stagnant. We've seen a Democrat win there in recent history in all the elections except for 2016 when Trump was able to pull off a win there with 0.7% more of the vote than Hillary. And he barely lost in the 2020 election to Joe Biden. Pennsylvania has two big Democratic strongholds, and that would be Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And they sort of carry the Democratic Party in that state. Really, I don't see Pennsylvania shifting that much, but it is one of those Rust Belt states, and the Rust Belt has been shifting more to the right. So we might expect Pennsylvania to shift more to the right in the future. In 2016, we saw evidence of it shifting to the right when Trump was able to pull off a win there, and we might expect more Republican wins in the state. And the final state I want to talk about is New Hampshire with 4 electoral votes. And it does not have much weight in the Electoral College, but they do have 2 senators, and that's very important. So in 2020, Biden pulled off a big win there with 7% more of the vote than Trump, while in 2016, Trump lost the state by 0.3%, which was the closest a Republican has come in a while. In 2012 and 2008, Obama was able to win the state by large margins, and New Hampshire historically has been a Republican state, but it's just shifted more Democrat recently since about 2000. And in 2016, we saw that New Hampshire, which really is, it has a lot of conservatives. They just don't respond well to the, how do I put this, the new Republican Party and their platform. I believe if the Republican Party became more traditional, then they would be able to appeal more to New Hampshire voters, because New Hampshire is certainly a state that they can succeed in if they had the right messaging. Okay, well, that's all I had to say. Please subscribe if you feel so inclined, and I'll try and release more videos in the future. Thank you for watching.